Here's a question that nobody in the Peppa Pig fandom has ever properly answered. Suzy Sheep is Peppa's best friend. She's in hundreds of episodes. She's at every birthday party, every playdate, every adventure. But when did you last see her house? Not Peppa's, not Grandpa Pig's, Suzy's. Think about it. Go ahead. Picture it. Can you? Because we couldn't. And the moment we started digging, we found something that changes the way you see their entire friendship. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, Suzy Sheep is going to feel like a completely different character. The character everyone overlooked. Suzy Sheep is presented as Peppa's equal. They're the same age, same school, same friend group. Suzy is confident, loud, and she never seems out of place. She's not shy. She's not awkward. If anything, she acts like she owns whatever room she's in. But here's the thing. Ownership is an interesting word, because when you map out every episode Suzy appears in, a pattern starts to emerge. She is almost never at home. Playdates happen at Peppa's house. Sleepovers happen at Peppa's house. Even when Suzy invites Peppa somewhere, it's rarely back to her own place. She always gravitates toward Peppa's world, and we always assumed that was just how the show was written. The story follows Peppa, so of course everything happens around Peppa. But what if that's not the full explanation? What if Suzy avoids bringing people to her house for a reason? Here's the thing that made us stop scrolling. In the early seasons, there is a brief exterior shot of Suzy's house during the episode where Peppa calls her on the phone to make plans. It lasts maybe 3 seconds. The camera doesn't linger. It doesn't zoom in. It just exists in the background and then disappears. Almost like the show doesn't want you to look too closely. And once you notice that, once you realize the show actively keeps you away from that house, the whole dynamic shifts. The evidence hunt. Finding Suzy's house. We went through the show episode by episode looking for any shot of Suzy's house. And we found it, but not many times. In the handful of episodes where her house does appear, you notice things. The building sits lower on the hill than Peppa's. It's smaller in width, the garden is less prominent, and the surrounding area feels more compressed, like less space was given to it on purpose. Now in Peppa Pig's world, that might sound like nothing, but this show has a rule baked into its DNA that most people have never consciously noticed. Height on the hill equals status. Look at it across the whole show. Peppa's family sits at the top. Grandpa Pig's house is elevated with a boat and a garden, retired but comfortable. Danny Dog's house is lower, and his dad is a mechanic. Pedro Pony's family lives near the bottom of their hill. Even at playgroup, the children's social confidence tends to mirror where their homes sit, and it's not just those characters. Look at Zoe Zebra. Her family runs a post office. Essential work, but not a high-status profession. Her house sits in the mid-range, visible but never prominent. Rebecca Rabbit's family are market gardeners. They grow and sell vegetables. The most working-class job in the entire show, and their burrow, because they don't even have a traditional house, sits closest to the ground of anyone. This pattern is everywhere once you see it. The show mapped out a full social structure and hid it inside a children's cartoon about muddy puddles. This isn't accidental. The creators built the visual language of this world around elevation. Higher means more secure, lower means less. And Suzy Sheep's house? It sits noticeably lower than Peppa's. The hill hierarchy theory. Let's break this theory down properly because it actually holds up across the entire series. Peppa's dad, Daddy Pig, is an engineer. He works on bridges. He has a home office. The family goes on holidays, buys new things casually, and lives in a house that somehow contains more rooms than should physically be possible. They are by every metric well off. Mrs. Sheep, Suzy's mom, is a nurse. That detail is dropped into a few episodes almost as background information. Nurses are essential and respected, but nursing is not a high-income profession. And crucially, in the show, we almost never see a Mr. Sheep. Suzy's dad is barely present. What if Suzy is being raised by a single working mom on a nurse's salary? That would explain the lower house position. It would explain why Suzy is always going to Peppa's house instead of hosting. It would explain why their home gets less screen time, because bringing the camera there might reveal something the show isn't ready to address directly. And then there are the birthday parties. Peppa's parties are full productions, bouncy castles, magicians, entire friend groups invited. Suzy's birthday, by contrast, gets mentioned more than it gets shown. When we do see a celebration around her, it's smaller, quieter, less documented by the show. For a character who appears as often as Suzy does, the absence of a big birthday episode is strange, unless the show understood, on some level, that throwing a lavish party for Suzy wouldn't quite ring true. And here's the most interesting part of all. It would explain Suzy's personality. She is one of the most confident, cheerful characters in the entire show. She never mopes, she never complains. She walks into every situation like she belongs there. That kind of resilience in a child usually comes from one of two places, either an extremely stable, loving home environment, or the learned habit of projecting confidence because showing vulnerability isn't an option. We're not saying the show intended this, but the details are all there, inside Suzy's house, what the show actually shows. There are a small number of episodes where we do get a look inside Suzy's house, and they're worth examining closely. The interiors we see are tidy, they're warm, there's nothing wrong with them. But compared to Peppa's house, with its multiple floors, the cellar, the wide living room, the garden, Suzy's home feels simpler. The rooms we see are smaller. The decor is more minimal. There's less of everything. Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Think about the episodes involving Suzy's bedroom. She has toys, she has drawings on the wall, everything a child's room should have. But it's a single room. We don't see the kind of sprawling upstairs that Peppa has. And Mrs. Sheep, when she appears at all, is almost always either leaving for work or just getting home from work. She's never just relaxing. She's never described as being on holiday. She is perpetually working. Which brings us to a detail in one episode that a lot of people missed completely. There's a moment where Suzy mentions her mummy is tired. Not busy, not away, tired. And Peppa just accepts it and moves on. But that small line tells you something about the texture of Suzy's home life that no direct statement ever does. There's one more thing. Early in the series, Peppa and Suzy communicate by telephone, that classic toy phone gag that runs through several episodes. But pay attention to the phones themselves. Peppa's family has a proper setup. Suzy's calls sometimes feel more uncertain, more hesitant on her end, like the connection itself is more fragile. It's a tiny thing. Maybe we're reading into it. But in a show where every visual choice seems to mean something, the way those calls are framed is hard to ignore. The show doesn't say Suzy's family has less. It shows you, and most of us never looked, what it changes about their friendship. So here's the part that actually matters. Because this whole investigation could just be a depressing analysis of cartoon economics. But that's not what this is. Because here's what nobody talks about. Suzy isn't just a recipient in this friendship. She's actually the one who keeps Peppa honest. Every other character in Peppa's life either looks up to her or tolerates her bossiness without pushing back. Suzy is the only one who genuinely challenges her. She argues, she disagrees. She doesn't automatically let Peppa win. And that matters because it means Peppa's relationship with Suzy is the only one in the show built on actual equality. Not on Peppa being in charge, not on the hill, on two people who genuinely like each other enough to fight and come back. If Suzy Sheep comes from a less wealthy background than Peppa, then their friendship becomes one of the most quietly meaningful things in the entire show. Peppa never treats Suzy differently. She doesn't hold resources over her. She doesn't invite Suzy over as charity. She just invites her over the same way you'd invite your best friend. There's no visible awareness of the gap, no awkwardness, no condescension. And Suzy never performs poverty or seeks sympathy. She shows up with the same energy every single time. She competes with Peppa. She argues with Peppa. She laughs with Peppa. She is fully and completely herself in every episode. That dynamic, a friendship that crosses a class line without either character making a big deal of it, is actually rare in children's media. Most shows either ignore class entirely or make it a dramatic storyline. Peppa Pig just lets it exist quietly in the background. Hidden in the house placement, in the job titles, in the small throwaway details, there's a story about what real friendship actually looks like. It doesn't notice the hill, it doesn't care about the size of the house, it just shows up. And Suzy Sheep's house, the one we almost never see. The one sitting a little lower on the hill, the one that tells you everything if you look closely enough. That house is the whole point. We've been looking at Peppa Pig our whole lives and thinking we understood it. But the more you dig, the more the show reveals about itself. The hill hierarchy, the house positions, the characters who live just outside the frame. Animated mania exists because these shows are worth taking seriously. There's more in them than anyone told you. If you want us to keep digging, subscribe. Drop your theory in the comments. What other characters in Peppa Pig are hiding something in plain sight? Because we already have our next target. And trust us, you're not going to see it coming.